Hello everyone. So today I would like to show you how to work with Azure functions on the Azure cloud, of course using Rust as well. And so we would quickly go through some of the things we'll be doing today. So I'm going to create a README file here so you can see what I'm doing. So we can do this together actually. So let's make a quick note. So of course we're going to try to cover the HTTP methods, and aside from those, or as part of those more or less, we'll take care of path params, we'll take care of query params, we'll take care of handling headers, and we'll take care of async futures. And so regarding tools that we'll be working with, so we'll work with the Azure CLI. We'll work with Azure Function Core Tools, and we would work with, of course, the Azure Cloud. So I'm guessing you would have an account. You can of course set up one that you can that you can get for free, that you can use to of course practice if you're starting out with the Azure Cloud, for example. So that should not be a problem for you, and you can of course destroy everything in the end and would hopefully not incur any costs for yourself. And yeah, and you guessed right. So language wise, of course, we'll work with Rust, and I want this nice. So regarding framework and Rust, we'll work with the warp framework. This is so I will also leave the links, documentation under this video, because I wanted to say that this for now is also like more or less a recommended framework that Azure uses to work with Rust runtimes when it comes to Azure functions. Yep, and that's mostly it, guys. That's mostly it. These are some of the things, like the tools would work with, the language, which you know of course already, and in the end would of course deploy our function to the Azure cloud. And these are some of the things would cover as well in this video. So the point would be to try to show you more or less how you can structure your code to handle like some of the basic things that you would be needing to do when it comes to building Azure functions or going on your serverless journey. And here maybe we can also talk a little bit about cores, and if we have some time we can also talk about middlewares. So guys, let's jump right in right away, no time to waste, let's go. So as you already know, when it comes to developing Azure functions on the Azure cloud, there are a couple of natively supported languages, for example Python, Java, .NET, and there is also Azure is also offering custom runtime that would allow you to develop Azure functions in Go or in Rust. And this is basically what we're going to do today, work with the custom runtime. And so one thing you really wanted to have at the back of your mind is when it comes to functions, Azure functions that are basically, actually, especially when you're doing local development, there's basically two files that are more or less quite important, which happen to be, I'll just make a note down here, also say important files, and one would be host.json, another would be local.settings.json. So let's jump right in, guys. And to get started, we would really need to look at this web page. So if we come to this web page, I would share the link in the description, and you would see, for example, that we'll be getting started with Warp and Tokyo. And what we can just do is maybe copy this sample code, and then we get started from there. So what I'm gonna do is just simply copy this over, and then we can get started. So let's get started. So what I can quickly do here is cargo init, and this would be to initialize a new project here. And yes, of course, I know I'm just gonna change the name of the project, and I'll call this Azure Func Rust. And yeah, like I showed you, I would copy the dependencies over from the browser page and just paste them here. And I'll copy the sample code, go to the main and dump it in here. And so now, just to be sure that everything works, I'm gonna run this code. So we can just maybe we also need to create a function that would represent this, because if you have a quick walkthrough in this code, we can see like there is one single service created here, and it's a get method. Of course, the endpoint is going to be API/HTTP example. We can just call this health, for example, to make things a little bit more cleaner. And yeah, so this endpoint would be expecting some query parameters, and which will be extracted as a hash map. And then if in the provided hash map, if there is a valid name, then the response would say hello whatever Tony. This HTTP trigger function executed successfully, otherwise it just says this. And that's basically what's happened. Then a port is of course initialized, and then the server is run. So what I will do right now is to save this and run the project, and we can test it out and see that everything works, and then we can just start from there. And I can just say cargo run, so run release. Our installation is complete, so now we can actually test out the server. So we can make a curl to HTTP localhost 3000, because as you can see here, our server is listening at port 3000. Then API and health, and they should say the HTTP, which is basically what is over here. And if we now add a query parameter and say name is equal to Tony, we get what we expect. So really nice. This is very basic. So each API that will be served from this server will be in Azure terms regarded as a function. And what we want to do is, after the creation of our host.json and local.json, we need to set up basically having, for example, if you look in here, we have at the moment just one endpoint. So to expose this with an Azure function, would of course need to have this mapped to a function, more or less. So in the end, this function would just be an API. And to do this, we would of course need the Azure function call tools pre-installed. To check if you have it installed, you should be able to say func, for example, and it should spit out some helper functions as to what you need to do to get started. So we can see we have it installed. And what we want to do right now is to create first of all a couple of functions to like I said, we would start with this health endpoint. So we could say func new, and we say template should be HTTP trigger, and we give it a name, and we can call it API health. It takes a few minutes and it creates. So if you look in here, we provided the name API health, and that's also what we see here as the name of the folder. And we look into the folder, we'll see a single file called function.json. So this would map the endpoint that would be served behind it, and then in the end, like I said, be exposed via what is referred to as a function within Azure Functions. So what we can also see is that running this command simply created this folder for us, and if we want to expose other endpoints, we can simply just duplicate this folder and do whatever we want to do with it, if we don't want to always come down to the CLI and do this. Of course, this can also save you some time and also help you to catch some errors if you make them, for example, in the naming or stuff like that. But the point is that this CLI function over here simply just creates this folder for us with this file function.json and with these attributes, and we cannot actually modify this. So author level, I would like this to be anonymous, so because I would not want to implement authorization for now. I just want to focus on the functionalities to show you the core concepts about Azure Functions. When it comes to authorization, you can of course even use the Azure Entra ID to authenticate your users who are already part of Azure Entra ID, for example. You could also of course do federation of accounts. For example, if you want your account users to, if you have your Enter ID connected to say Facebook or Microsoft or Amazon, I don't know, and you want your users to also be able to log in with those the credentials from those platforms. You can have this all set up in your Entra ID and then allow your function authenticate with your Entra ID. So you have these possibilities more or less, and you can of course also implement your own authorization and handle authorization within the function. Either way it works. For now, I will keep it simple, make the auth level anonymous. So type is of course HTTP trigger. It could be also, or other than having this function handle, for example, HTTP endpoints as it's doing right now, you can also use this to subscribe to, let's say, to a service bus. For example, I have one actually listening to IoT Hub events by subscribing to a service bus and then consuming those events as they come in. So there is a ton of things, of course, you can do with Azure Functions, but in this case, we are only using it to handle HTTP requests, and that is why the type here is HTTP trigger. And one thing I would also want to add here is I would like to add routes, because if this is not provided, it will be inferred from the name of the file. So I want to make this explicit, and I can call this health, and I can just to also make this unique, I'll give the name as the same as the folder. I'll call this API health, and it will be a get, it will not be a post. And I can also listen to options. Where are you over there? And yep, that's more or less it. So if we come back here, one thing you can always notice that when we define our endpoints, they would always be have the /API prefix. So that's also, this will always be there. It needs to be there actually, but in our definitions of the endpoints, we don't need the API in here. We can just say health, like we have it over here, and that should be totally fine. And now the next thing I would want to do is of course build our project once more, copy it to the root, and have this executable in the root of this folder, so that when the Azure function is started locally, it can always find this binary. So let me take one more last final check to see everything is in place. So this is properly defined. If we go to source, this looks good. And yeah, so we can actually do something like cargo build. We'll build for release, and we copy from targets, and we go to release, and we go to Azure func.ese, and we'll copy it to our current root folder, and then we start the function. And we should see our binary in the root. So instead of like what we did before, so if I come back here where we went to localhost 3000, now we can go to localhost 7071, and I'll just get rid of this 7071, and this should still be fine. So you can see we get our response back, and if I also invoke this function without the query parameter, we should also get this back. So everything is working as it should. So what we would like to do now is, of course, like I said in the beginning, to just show you a little bit how you can take care of this in your Azure functions. So like defining methods, handling path parameters, query parameters, headers, async features, cores, and the middlewares, if we have enough time for this, because I don't really want this video to be very long. And so one thing I can do straight up is to maybe define a folder in here, and I'll call it something like let's say utils. So it's gonna I'm just going to actually dump everything in here, and then we just focus on what we want to do. So I define a mod rs, and in main I would reuse this. So use mod utils, and so now I can define one that says maybe models.rs. I can define another that says api.rs, and I think that's mostly what and if we have enough time, I can also define one that says middleware.rs. I think that's mostly it. And then I export all of this again from here, mod API, pub mod API, thank you, pub mod middleware, and pub mod models, thank you. So if we come back to main, you could see, for example, this part of the logic is actually what should happen. Like, this is the service definition, and these parts we should need to actually take away from here, and that I would actually like to have it in here in the file that I defined as API. That's api.rs over here. And so I can define a function here, and I can call it health, I don't know, and it will return a result, and this result would either be a response. Sorry, I'm coughing too much today. A response, which would be a string, or it could return an error. And of course, I need to import all of this again from warp, so I can get them all from warp. And so we need HTTP response, and we need HTTP. Do we need a no? We have this already. So we get error, and this should be fine. And what we can actually now do is to copy this logic in here. So this one, actually, you can just copy this, like maybe from here, and then we can put it in here. And then we also maybe say that so the query parameters we get out of the path, we would want to pass them into this function. So we can call it QP for query parameters, and like we saw, it would be a hash map of string and string. I can't type string properly today for some weird reason. So what I can now do is to define a response that I will return to the user, and I can get this from matching the arms of this hash map. So I can match and qp .get, and so we are looking for one called name, and I can just dump it in here, and I return, come on, and I think there is I just need to put a semicolon here. I think this looks okay already, so that we can come back in here into our main file, and we can maybe now get rid of this. Yes, we can get rid of this, and we can now call our so we move this to utils.api, so health, and I think here it's called AP, and we are done actually. So what we've done is basically move this logic away from the main file. So now we can clean up a little bit, get rid of this, and everything should still be fine. And yeah, so we can restart our server and of course recompile our code to see that everything works as it should. Now the compilation is done and we can go ahead and test to see that everything still works, and we can just make a call request one more time, and this still looks good. So fine, this is looking nice. So like I promised, I would like to show how you can do posts. We already have gets, we can do like a put, patch, maybe delete, and we would also want to take care, oh my caps lock is on, also want to take care of headers. And if I remember, so we have headers, we have query path params, and yeah, async futures and middlewares I'll talk about in the end if we have enough time. So we have headers, we have async futures, and then we have I think that's it for now. So headers, async futures, and cores. You're going to talk about cores. Yep, we can do that. Should be fine. Actually, we can quickly just handle cores for now to keep things as simple as possible. Yes, we can do that. So we can actually come in here in our main function, and we define cores, and this will be from wap.cores, and I think this should already do it, but we can maybe add some more functionalities to this, and we could say allow, we can say allow any region for now, and what else? We could say allow methods. Where is it? Help me. Oh come on, there is no period here, Tony. Nope. Allow methods, thank you. And this will be a vector of strings, of course. Thank you. My telesense is working quite well today. So we would allow get post, thank you. Put delete, patch maybe as well. And yeah, we can leave it as this for now. And to of course add this to our routes, what we can simply do is to come down here and we say we define our routes, and in the end would compose our filters together to handle this couple of the different routes would be wanting to handle. But for now, what we will do is we call this, of course we can not call this example one anymore, we can call this health, and we now say health dot with, and we add our cores, and that's it. Really, that's it, guys. And that's really it. We have our cores defined. And why do we have this error here? It should be method is expecting one actually, not vector, so it should have been methods, not method. And now we can, instead of example one, we pass our routes, and we have handled calls. So we can restart the server to make sure everything is working well, and then we can also continue, give it a couple of seconds, and then we'll be back. So the compilation is done, and we can try this out one more time, and everything seems to still be fine. And what you could probably do in production, for example, would be to not use allow any origin. You could of course do say allow origin. So you have origin, for example, and you can use this, and then you provide an origin. So what you can also do, of course, in production is to not say allow any origin, but you can actually, there's another function called allow origin. So this one you can specify a given origin, but just to show you that that's also there. But for now, we'll keep this open and allow any origin. That's totally fine. So the next thing I would like us to do is to define some of the endpoints we would handle to take care of the methods we want to take care of today. And to do that, what we can actually just do is copy this guy a couple of times. So I'll paste again. Let's say this is okay for now. So we handle all of this. So we can say, let's say we are handling users, for example. So we can rename this to maybe API get user to get a singular user. And I want to name all of them API, so I have them all at the top of this. Not to have them clutter the whole place and be all over the place. So say API get users. So this would be to get a particular user, and this would be to get like a couple of users. And for this, we could call this API post user. And what else do we want to do? We can name this one API delete user. We can also name this one API update user. And I think this is fine for now. So we go to API delete user and we make this a delete. And the endpoint would be, let's say, user delete, and it provides a path param called ID. And we of course need to change the name. So it would be API delete user. And so we go to API get user, we renamed it again, API get user. I will say API slash maybe gets, I don't know, user, and we expect some ID. And of course, if you have a number of path params you want to pass, you could pull everything in here. Say name, for example, maybe we can actually do that. And I don't know, we can leave it like this. And then we go to get users, and we rename it, of course, API get users. And we say, what was the name for this one, just to be sure. So like I told you, there is no need to say API here. And so API gets, and this is gets, that's fine. And this also sorry, user delete, and then one say, so here we can also say user gets. And so for this one, get users, we can say users. So we can use the same as a user gets. There will be no path params, you simply just get everything. And it should also of course be a get. So health we've taken care of. So post, say API maybe post, I want to keep the names unique, post user, and say user slash, I don't know, post, whatever. Or we can just say create, and it's gonna be a post method. I'm allowing the options for pre-flight in case if you would want to handle it, if you want to consume this API from the browser. And we have API updates user, so the route would be user updates, and we provide an ID, and we rename it, of course, API update user, and this is going to be a put, just to be sure. So this is a post, this is a get, thank you, looks good, API, and then the way update user looks good. I think that looks fine. So we can restart this server and see the endpoints we've created, and then we can start the implementation. And now we can see all the endpoints we've defined. So this is code, and what we have to do now is actually implement the service behind these endpoints. And just to quickly show you, So if, for example, let's say this endpoint, because I want to go as fast as possible. So if, for example, these endpoints, apart from getting this query parameter from the path, if we also would, for example, want to extract headers, what we can also do here, for example, is maybe to add in the composition of these filters, we could say and we use the, how is it called, the fish, sorry, I think it's called the fish, I can't remember how it's called again. So I would say of course it's going to be a string, and we call it let's say authorization, for example. And now we have access to this authorization, and what we can now do is, for example, maybe pass this here, and we say maybe say token, we'll call it yeah, we can, of course it has to come first because in the definition it's coming first before the query parameter, so we'll put it over here and we can call it token, and we'll say it's gonna be a string. I can't type string today for some weird reason. String, and now of course we have to modify this function to, for example, either take this header and consume it, or do whatever it wants to do, whatever. And also what we can do, if we have time, I will also show you how to do it, is to maybe add a middleware, of course, in the end that would, for example, handle authorization for you before the function itself is actually invoked. We can also do that. And now we have this authorization token, and we could modify this function to, I don't know, accept token, which will be, sorry, I keep forgetting, which could be, like we said, should be a string. And now we do whatever we want to do with this token. Of course, this is complaining because we have to pass it in here. So we have just to token, and then we pass our p again, and everything should be fine. And now you have it. So let's just keep going, and then we see how much time we have. So the next thing I would like to define would be, if we go back to APIs, the next thing I would like to define would be our post method. So I can also name this maybe post user, or just call it post. And then what we can do is to maybe define a struct or a type that this post method would be expecting. So this could be, we could define a struct here. We say, no, let's define it inside our models. So we can say pub struct, and we name it user, for example, and we have name, help me, thank you. I'll say email string, and maybe that's it. And what we could also do is to add some, thank you, is add some macros. We have serialized. Do we need serialized for now? Let's leave debug for now. And here we can say our API post user would be expecting a user, which would be, can of course use create, and we can use utils, models, no, not you. And here, I don't like to import everything just so I know whatever I'm using is coming from. So instead of just importing user, for example, I would like to just stop at models and use models to users, just to know where this is actually coming from. And so of course this is our post method, and we can define what should happen. We can actually yes, there's no need to waste time. We can actually make this async, and we also say it's going to return a result, and the result has to be one that's implemented or implements the reply method, the reply struct in reply threads in Rust, and or return an infallible. So this infallible never throws actually. Yeah, but this helps us to structure our code, and we can, for example, just say, okay, assuming you've done all the computation you want to do, and we say you just made a post request, and we are to, I don't know, let's say u.name, and yes, it's private, and we say you just made a post request to, you know what, let's make you public as well, so you stop complaining. And so there we have our post method defined, and it is async. And to, of course, consume this, we have to again come over here and hook this up here. And the composition of these filters is also like taking the same format. It's really straightforward. So we could say let we can call it create user. That is actually a way you can create like really complex filters, but that's really not the idea for for this video. And just like before, we can do something like warp. We can use the path macro. It saves us some time. And here we need to look into our posts method one more time. So it's user/create. So we can define it here. We have user. We can define it this way. Let's create. And just to clarify, guys, so this we have here, because now we are using the path macro, but what we have here is really exactly the same as this. So if we don't want to have this way, this is like a shorthand, we can just explicitly write it out that they are exactly the same. There is no difference, just so I don't confuse anybody in the process. Okay, and we say and we say that we would be so this would be let's define the method. So we say is a post, and okay, and we say we are expecting, like with the function we want this, the post method of course is expecting an object of user type. So we say we are expecting something in the body. We should be a JSON. And now because what is this, go away. So because the function is async, we use the then keyword, and of course we move, we can give this a name. We can call this user for I don't know, I have I can model, okay, I can just use details, models, user. I have this, and I can then move, come on, I can't even type async anymore. And here I can just have my, you know what, utils, you're killing me. Here I can say use utils. I can have API and models. Now I just stop doing this. It's really annoying. And this async move would now then be API post, and we pass you, of course, and we close it all up. So we add we update our dependencies. We add setter, and just copy this from the browser and put it in here. So now we have all our dependencies updated. Yeah, of course we have to await this because it's an async function. And so there you have it, guys. We have defined a new, we've composed a new, we have defined a new endpoint that would handle the creation of our users. And of course, we would have all of this together. So I would like to have our create user at the beginning of this composition of filters. So I can have here create user, or, and now we have our health, and there you go. And that's how you do it. It's as easy as that, guys. So the next thing we would want to do, of course, is to, so we have taken care of posts. So the next one we might want to take care of is, let's say, maybe get. The endpoint is defined as user get ID name, and so we can go to our API. So it's gonna look something similar to this. I'll just copy this and just paste it in here, paste it a couple of times actually, and so we can just modify it. So here I can say get user, and this would be get users, and then this would be update user, and this would be finally delete user. And so if maybe I take one more look here, so delete user, the endpoint would be, so we would be expecting an ID. So in this definition over here for API, we would be expecting an ID for delete user, which is over here. And also, of course, for get user, so we can just replace with the ID, and this would be of type string, for example. And we can say user with ID has been deleted, something like this. And here we put our ID, as easy as that. And we can, to hook this up, of course, we can come over here and create a new, compose a new route for this. So we can say get user, and this use, thank you very much. So we have, let's confirm one more time. Are we working on delete, or I think I'm having it all mixed up because I'm getting so fast. Okay, so we are currently working on get user, and I might as well, of course, already copy the signature and bring it over to user. User with ID is being, I don't know, queried. Say here we can say user with ID has been deleted, and we come over here, and then so we can now work on this together. So we have user delete ID. So for delete, so it means we have to handle delete first. It's also fine. So delete user, so say user delete, and we expect a string. This string would be the ID, and we can simply just copy this, for example, put it over here, and of course it's going to be a delete. Thank you. So we have our ID over here. So instead of having this way, we can also just define a path param over here, but that's again, like I said, this will be a shorthand, so we don't have to do all this user. We have over here user, and then we define another one delete, and then we define the paths also parameter, and we say, I don't know, ID. So now we can say, assuming this is going to be an async function, so we, oh, that was almost so good. Actually I don't need all of this. It should be ID, which is of type nope, which is we know is a string. And so over here we have our API, we say delete user, and we pass the ID, and we close this up. And we can also of course make it async, so we wait, and you guessed it already, we can really just copy this and put it over here and make this our get user. Get, so this becomes a get, and the endpoint was I'm trying to be as fast as possible, user get ID name. So come back here, user get this will be the ID, and we provide another one, name, and we simply just pass all of this over here. We have ID in name, which is also of type string, and we pass everything here. We pass ID and name. And what are we missing? So delete user is not expecting, so we have to modify delete user to accept no, I think that's get user. Get user. So yes, so get user would now have ID and name and both of type string. And so now we can say user, and we just put the name over there. User, let's say, I don't know, whatever. We'll say this user is being queried, whatever. And why are we getting errors, and where is it even coming from? Just ID, and then we come back to main. So we've taken care of get, so we need to do like getting of multiple users, and it should be user slash get. And so it's also here, it's actually just so our get users will not take anything, do not take any arguments. And what is the problem? Yeah, so we'll say users are being queried, and this should be okay. And so it's at the endpoint just use slash user slash get, so we can really just copy this guy and just paste it over here, and it would be get users, and we don't need all of this, and so nothing comes from here actually, and nothing goes in here, and that's it. So it's get users. And so what else is remaining? So we have delete, we have get users, we have health, we have post, and we have update. So I'm just gonna copy this one more time and paste them over here. And so this would be update user. Of course it has to be a user. And the endpoint is, what is the endpoint? A user update ID. So we come back here, so it's user update ID, and that's the ID, and here we pass the ID, of course, and this goes in here. Help me, thank you. We'll pass the ID and we await it. And now we have defined all our endpoints for now. So what is the problem. So I think you should be expecting an ID of type string and not a user model. Here I can just put ID. Request about user with ID, and we leave it as that. And we come back here, and what we can now do is to chain our endpoints together. So we can start over here, and we say let's routes. Our routes would be how should we do this? So we could say our routes would be create user, and say, or when this is not matched, we can say get user, come on, and when this is not matched, we can say get users, and when this is not matched, we say so we have create user, get user. I want to handle users first. Get user, and I want to do update user, and I want to do delete user, and finally I want to take care of health, and then I say with cars, and this should be fine. And now I can actually get rid of this guy. And yup, so what we can now do is, so I think we didn't use this anymore, so we can remove these curly braces. And so let's restart our server and hope that everything still works. And while this is compiling, I would like to implement two more methods, and one would be I would like to implement a rejection of what should happen when none of these defined endpoints are matched. So if you should, for example, go to ABC/EFG, for example, we would really want to reject the request because it would not be matching any of the methods we've defined. So I can come down here, for example, and I'm trying to be as fast as possible, and I define an async function, and I call this handle, I don't know, not found. So it's going to take a rejection. Help me. Let me see. Awesome. So it's going to take a rejection, and like our other methods, it will return a result. It has what we want to return, has to implement reply. So it's either this or we return a rejection. Come on. And so what we really want to do here is simple. Say if reject dot is not found, thank you. So if this condition is met, so what we want to return to the user is on the status code of not found, thank you. And we say else. We actually don't need else. Here we can simply just return an error and we reject. So that's more or less it. So that's it. And what we just do is we come status code should be defined in blah blah blah. So what if I put all of this together? And so this filter comes over here. So and now I can look for, is it in HTTP? Yes, awesome. It's in HTTP. So what I would like now to do is to come over here and say when all else fails. What is wrong? Or maybe it's not supposed to be from, so let's see, hyper, okay, status code. So let's see if this solves a problem. Awesome, so it should be from hyper, and it's not found. Oh, better, awesome. And so, and what we want to do now is to, at the end, if all else fails, like we said, what is that error? Oh, it has to be inside this arm. We say error and we reject. Oh, crazy. Okay, so what we want to do is when all this, if when all else fails, we would recover. Come on, help me out. I'm gonna recover with, what would we call it? Handle not found. And yep, that's looking good. That looks good. And maybe what I would also want to do is to define a similar function that I would use to handle unrecognized or unreconciled methods. Actually, I could, let's see, I can duplicate this and I can add it, I can call it handle, I can say the custom handler. So it's also have the same signature, and we say, so now it's not going to be about it's not found. We could say find, and we define what the method should be like. So it should be of type. What could we put here? Okay, maybe I would like to define my own custom error. Struct, and I'll call it custom error, and so I can pass custom error here. So the type would be of the custom error, and let's say, of course, is none. So if this is none, we want to return status code method not allowed. And I might need to implement the reject threads for a custom error. I'm not sure. So let's see. Import reject for custom error. Is this even imported? This doesn't even need to be, it's already in the root, it's fine. Cannot define foreign type. Are you kidding me right now? What is the problem? Attempted to take value of found type rejection method not a field. Are you serious? Of course, syntax error. Okay, doesn't implement debug. That's we can fix that. So what is that? So what I would want to do now is so wop.serve routes, and here I could say that's recover, and I will record that with my custom help me out custom handler, and that's run and blah blah blah, and that await, and I think this looks okay. So let's restart and check that, see that everything is fine. And in the meantime, I could, what else was not used in here? Token, come on. We can also, now that we've shown what we wanted to show, we can actually get rid of this. So I can come back here and go to, I think it's the first health endpoint. So we can just remove this here. So it tells us that this is not being used. Or I can actually just remove this. It's not needed actually. I remove the authorization. It's fine. Yep, that should be fine. We have some errors. Okay, so what I can already also do is to maybe create a file that we could use to test our endpoints. HTTP, that's HTTP, not HTTPO, rather HTTP. And I would like to define some reusable components. So I could say base, or I'll just call it URL. It would be HTTP localhost 7071/API. Please don't do that. And now I can define my endpoints. So we can maybe start with the health. I'll call this health, and we can maybe start with this. So it's going to be a get, of course, and we use our URL. So we now have /API/health. Thank you so much. And we can define content type, say application JSON over here. Thank you so much. And now we get our response back. So this is looking good, guys. And of course we can also even just do it from the terminal. Maybe I open this up a little bit more so you can see. And maybe I bring this closer as well. Yep, so we can test this out, and this looks good. And we can of course add a query param and say name, and we call it Tony, and this is fine. And I would actually leave you to test out the rest, but be rest assured they should all be fine. So for the sake of time, I would also quickly like to so if we look at our agenda, we have covered most of these: HTTP methods, path params, query params, headers, async futures, cores. That would be it, guys. So the last thing I would want to show you, for those of you, of course, who have like Azure test accounts that they use, I would quickly show you how you can deploy your function to Azure Cloud and then test this out. And Of course, there are a couple of ways we could do this. We could do this with Terraform, for example, but we could do this with ARM templates. But I just want to focus on this video, and then maybe in the future I can focus on those other topics in depth, and then show you also how you can go about that. So for now, maybe we can just use a simple shell script. I can write one. I can call it setup.sl. Basically, would use the Azure CLI to do the provisioning, and I have prepared a short file as well. And I will just bring this over and explain it a little bit, and just it's really nothing fancy. And this is it. So I can open this up. So we give it a name, whatever name you want to give it. That also depends on your project name. So I use these two together. That's the idea, to now form the name of the function, or more or less. Also, if you look here, we have project name being used also for the resource group. So we don't need path. So we have environment, we have the runtime. Of course, it has to be custom. Location, I'm in Germany, so I'm choosing West Europe. And OS, I'm choosing Windows, because I'm also using Windows locally to develop. So the first thing would actually be, we would assume that you have created a resource group already. I'm guessing you know your way around Azure. If you don't know what a resource group is, there is no need trying out this solution. So if you have a resource group called whatever, we can see here RG, and we give it a name of I don't know, Tony, and now we can actually move it around. And maybe, of course, what it means is wherever we see G, of course, G stands for resource group, we can replace this. But what this is doing in essence is it assumes you already have a resource group, and for you to have a resource group, you should already have a default subscription. So within your subscription, you create a resource group, and inside the resource group, we are creating a storage account where, of course, our code, the files would live, and then we're actually creating the function, and then we are publishing our function. That's really just what we are doing. That's all. These are just parameterizations. We can actually take all of this, put it inside of these functions, and we end up with just 3 lines. So if I take this all out, we have 3 lines. So with this, you can simply just run this in your from the terminal, sh setup if you're on Windows, for example, and then this would do all the magic for you. If you have a resource group, again, like I said, created, it would create a storage account, it will create a function for you, and then it will publish it. There are a couple more things it does behind the scenes. For example, things like setting up insights. That's also probably not something you would worry about at this level. So this should do it. Please leave your comments in the comment section to know me if you actually tested this out, or if everything worked out for you. If this is required, I will also leave a copy of the repository on my GitHub profile, so that you can check it out if you want to study this later, or have this just as a copy with you to maybe start a project tomorrow regarding working with Rust within the Azure cloud. And that will be it all, guys, today. I tried as much as I can to wrap this up as quickly as possible. Thank you so much for being part of this. And please, like I always say, please, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please leave them below, and I will attend to them as quickly as possible. And please, if you're also new to our channel, please try to subscribe and leave your comments and turn on the notification bell. I'll try as much as I can to leave you with tutorials that are useful, that you can actually use in your daily life. Thank you so much, and until we see each other next time, have a wonderful evening. Bye bye.